This is Pete Moore on Halo Talks NYC. I have the pleasure of bringing a friend of mine in the Halo sector for a very, very long time, Rich Drengberg, EōS CEO. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Pete. Happy to be here.
We made it through your agent and your compliance, and it's glad to know that you are the only podcast that you'll be on my podcast, and hopefully we'll be able to say we have an exclusive on the Drengberg interview, which could go down as an LA archive back in the day to now. But look, you've been at EōS, to refresh everyone's memory in the audience here. This was the largest Gold's Gym area developer out of Phoenix, Palm Springs, and parts of Southern Cal and Vegas, owned by Brad and Wanda Nesti. Was sold to Bruce Bruckman at BRS, who brought in Bob Giardina. And their construct there was, let's take the Gold's Gym brand down. Let's pay the fees. We went back and forth on different names to come up with. And EōS is Latin for the dawn. So it was the dawn of fitness, and that was Bruce Bruckman, who I think trademarked the name before we actually closed the deal, which is
right. This was your deal.
This was our deal originally, and that closed in 2014. And maybe pick up on how you got involved in EōS. When you were originally at the VP of Sales and Marketing at a fast-growing and legendary Gold's Gym SoCal.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Angel were probably the best independent club operators in the country. And I had 15 years with them to learn every aspect of the business, sales, marketing, operation, real estate, HR, you call it. In that kind of environment, you get to learn everything, and they were the best at it. So they really prepared me, for that next step. And in 2015, when I went there to meet with BRS and take on this opportunity, I think they saw that same thing, and the things that I didn't know were the things that they knew the most about.
Yeah.
So it worked out pretty great. And then obviously I had the luxury of getting Bob Giardina as my mentor, kind of big brother, uncle, whatever you want to call it. But he was a big deal for me. And he still is. He's still on our board now.
Yeah, and for people who don't know, Bob was a legendary operator out of the New York area with New York sports clubs and Town Sports, which was a BRS deal that was wildly successful over many leveraged buyout recaps, and then eventually turned that into a publicly traded company. So when they looked at the Southwest Golds deal, they kind of said, hey, let's replicate this throughout the Sun Belt, and executed on that plan seamlessly, obviously under your direction. So Rich, once you got involved, and obviously the Gold's Gyms to the EōS transaction was running like the quintessential HVLP 2.0, fast growing markets. Obviously a lot of people were moving into Vegas and to Phoenix. What did you kind of tinker with the business, and when did you know, or when did you tell the guys at BRS and the board, hey guys, like I'm ready to put like some rocket fuel on this thing?
Yeah, I mean, we were at the HVLP when I came in. That work had been done. So really, it just became, now we had to put a brand behind the name. Mm-hmm. And so really, we took 2015 to do that. We put the right people in the right seats in the bus, brought more people in to support that, and really thought about what our vision wanted to be, what our purpose was going to be, our mission, because again, we literally took one name down and put a new name up. And so that was 2015. 2016, we opened 2 gyms. 2017, we opened up 3 gyms. And at that point, we really started getting the momentum behind us and feel like we had something. So I would say probably 2017 was really rolling into 2018 when we knew we really had something special. I would also say that we really, from the beginning, didn't settle on HVLP as being enough. And it was enough in 2015. You could just compete against your local mid-price competitor with cardio and strength and some group exercise classes, maybe a kids club, and you would win. And we just had the vision that we wanted to add more value and then those mid-price competitors if possible, and really just be the absolute compelling offering in the marketplace.
One of the things that stood out to me as you guys were growing is, well, two things. One is you were very disciplined and you're very good at saying no to me and other people about things that didn't fit. That might be an interesting acquisition, but long term, the box size wasn't what you wanted it to be. So very, very disciplined in that growth strategy. And, talk a little bit about how you guys looked at opportunities and said, hey, I'm going to green light this. And, these are interesting, but like they're not who I want to be.
Yeah. Well, listen, first, Pete, we didn't have a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I mean, we were still a small business growing. And so we definitely had to pick our opportunities, what made sense and what didn't make sense
Right.
during that time. But we also had the experience, like Bruce Bruckman, he had been through this with New York sports clubs.
Yeah.
And it did lots of expansions. And obviously Bob was the one in the forefront of that. And they were very, I would say, very passionate about saying, Rich, you have a mousetrap that works. Let's stay focused on that. There's not a lack of opportunities out there. So let's pick and choose. And so when it makes sense to enter a market. And so we that's exactly how we did it. We went to Utah, we picked a small chain out there, and that helped us get 5 gyms in Utah. Then there was an opportunity in Houston to grab a small chain in Houston, and that was a great way to jump off a market there. So we've really just picked for the most part that, and then our most recent one with TSG was a bigger. We were bigger now. It's a trade area that we knew very well, and it was very hard to penetrate. So that one made a ton of sense for us too.
And then, as you're talking about, like we didn't have that much money back in the day, it was a pretty highly levered deal, for the people in the audience here listening. A private equity deal is based on trying to put as little equity in as you can on a deal, borrow as much money as senior debt or construction debt. Given you were coming in from, a sales and marketing role, probably weren't as didn't ever have to like wear a CFO hat at the same time. How did you kind of get comfortable with leverage ratios and bank reporting? How quick of a mentorship or, education did you get on that front?
It was definitely an education, right? I think I came in with a PhD on how to run a gym, but this other stuff
Right.
was a foreign language to me. I think very blessed with, Rashad, Rashad of BRS.
Yep.
And, he was very much him and Bruce and Bob. All of them had lived this. And that was sort of the easy stuff for them. And so there wasn't a lot of pressure for me to catch up fast, to understand that. I had a great CFO that came from TSI. She's still with us today, Peggy. And so I really just got to learn that over a period of time. And it really wasn't a big sprint. I would say the biggest things I got from private equity right out of the gate was the mindset change of
Yeah.
being an independent operator where you just think differently. So I'll give you a couple of quick stories that
Yeah, please.
on that. I think it's kind of fun. One with Bob G. So Bob sat down. We were opening our first gym in 2016, and with our architect, I brought him in. I go, Bob, we're picking out the lights, we're picking out the flooring, we're picking out the colors, we're going through all this stuff. And those of you that know Angel and Willie specifically, every detail matters down. And that's like what made him so great. And so that's what I'm doing, because that's what I know. And we're in this meeting for 2 or 3 hours. And I look over at Bob and I go, Bob, am I thinking about this too much? And he looks back over at me and he's like, yeah, if you don't like it, change it on the next one. And it was like, you know what, a little bit of a big weight off of my back. And it wasn't that we didn't care. It wasn't that I wouldn't enough thought to it. He's just like, but you're going to paralyze yourself. You're not trying to open up just 1 or 2 gyms a year. There's a vision here to do more. And you have to get out of your own way and move faster. So that was one with Bob. Another one was with him was around, if you remember, it was a rocky start when the gyms changed names. I think you might have heard something about that, right, Pete?
Yeah. I mean, it was a whole management,
it was crazy. And so I had this grand plan on improving the 16 gyms. And let's just say the 16 gyms are all going to make $100,000 more.
Right.
Bob's like, okay, that's great. Or you can open 1 more gym.
Right. Yep.
And he wasn't saying it wasn't important to take care of the gyms behind me. He was just trying to get me out of that thought process of these are your 16 babies. You have to make sure every one of these babies are healthy. And if they're not, you can't move past it. And in all fairness to someone like Angel and Willie as operators, that is their 16 babies, and they did need to be taken care of in that certain way. So it's just a different sort of viewpoint to it.
Yeah.
I mean, I can keep going. I get like some with Bruce, and
Yeah. Yes.
Bruce would walk up to us, and we'd talk about this kind of a similar thing where we say, "Hey, this gym is only making $100,000 a year. This is how we're going to make 15% more, right?" He's like, "Okay, so you just made 15 grand more, right? That's a terrible gym, and you're spending all your energy here. What about the gym that's making $1 million that you can make 15% more, and that's going to equal $150,000 a year? That's probably a bit, if you have limited resources, limited ability to influence, make sure that you're looking where the biggest opportunities are, not just looking at maybe the worst situation and trying to make that better."
Yeah. Yeah. There's some great takeaways.
And then I do have to give one more on Bruce though, because
Yeah, please.
probably the most. This is probably the change EOS's trajectory forever. Was this one is in we opened those 2 gyms and crushed it in 2016. Then we opened up those 3 gyms in 2017 and crushed it. We had taken the original 16 gyms and it's at the highest point it's ever been. And we're at our board meeting and at the end of the year, and I feel like $1 million. And we're at I think just getting a glass of wine with Bob and Bruce. And Bruce says, "Hey, are we going to keep opening like 2 or 3 gyms a year? Because I'm 60 something and this is going to take a really long time to make this investment anything if we're going to keep doing this." And I was like, geez, that's a different way of looking at this thing. I mean, I'd never opened up more than 3 gyms ever in a year, right? So I was
Yeah.
feeling
Yeah.
great. And so at that point, he's really just ingrained in me the importance of real estate. And I had a great team, still have a great team, and they knew exactly what they were doing. And so I just went to them and said, hey guys, I'm going off on this journey here to figure this real estate thing out. You got this." And off I went, and they crushed it on their end, and hopefully I figured out pretty well on my end. And that was really the beginning of our sort of trajectory of going up.
Yeah. Speaking of real estate, I remember you and I had a conversation many years ago, and you devoted a lot of time to educate the real estate developers and the REIT market, and groups that were opening up big centers, power centers, and said, I want to be your anchor tenant. How long did that take? Were you in the right place at the right time with the right size box, with the right balance sheet? How did that kind of evolve? Because, some of it's like networking and personality and, trust. And some of it's like, hey, there's a lot of development and, LA Fitness wasn't, the bell at the ball anymore. Lifetime wasn't building boxes that would fit into those types of centers. And EOS kind of became like the go-to, anchor tenant. How did that kind of evolve?
It's just that it evolved, right? I mean,
Yeah.
we, lots of times on airplanes and vans and selling these developers and landlords and REITs the dream of who we were going to be one day.
Yeah.
And obviously we had some smaller, 2 gym, 3 gym openings and performance, but ultimately, like you said, we weren't first choice by any stretch of the imagination early on. And we didn't have a balance sheet that was blowing people away.
Right.
And so it really just took a lot of relationship building and trust. And I'm always very appreciative of all those landlords and REITs who we work with today with just cookie cutter deals that they did take a chance on us back then. And it was just a lot of work, a lot of time. And I think it really didn't really flip until a few years ago, and where really you stopped having to tell the story and it really just became more about specific deals and how you're going to do it. And that took a while too. I mean, when you look at real estate, to stay disciplined and do your deal and not worry about losing a deal necessarily, because in the end, there's a deal across the street. There's a
Right.
deal a mile away. And so I used to chuckle when I heard people say that we would stretch for deals because they thought we were, because they were trying to figure out how we were getting it. It's like, well, no, you're paying more rent and you got less TI,
Right.
and then we were getting, and ultimately, if it's not our deal, we're going to step back. If it is our deal, we're going to do it. And if you get it, you get me on one, I'll get you on the other. And you just
Yep.
have to be disciplined and realize you're not playing basketball here. You're signing $15 million leases.
Yeah. One of the things that, struck me, and obviously I'm an ex kind of Golds guy. I was at the private equity fund back in '99 when we did the original deal. And, Dave Reisman used to be like the marketing, assistant to Derek Barton. And, Ginger Rogers was running like the GGFA. And Mike Epstein was like my best friend, who I could hang out with when I went to Paramus. You recruited all these people, from the industry. And I think, I see headlines. I don't want to like point anybody out, but bring some guy in from a coffee chain, bring some guy in from, like a home improvement chain. And, you kind of said, hey man, like I know how to run this play. I know the team I need. I got to, whether it's a soccer team, I got 11 people and I actually can earmark who those 11 people are. How much has your experience in relationships kind of built the infrastructure of like this expanded base of players?
It's everything. I mean, that absolutely. I mean, that's how I was able to get these people with relationships. Being a gym rat, I think it's important in our space, Pete. I think we've seen it, like you said. I'm not saying there's exceptions to the rule because I'm sure there's exceptions to the rule out there of an outsider coming in and being able to do what we do. But man, I don't know it off the top of my head.
Yeah.
But we both can tell you a whole laundry list of those that don't. And it's just, I think it's different than running a restaurant. It's different than running a hotel. There's a lot of nuances to it. And there's a lot of things that intuitively, if you're an outsider, you want to go chase, like attrition, right? You come in and like, why do I need to sell one more? I'll just save one more. So I'm going to take all my money out of marketing and I'm going to put it all into saving members, and off to BK they go.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I think having the experience helps the day-to-day decision, the strategy, the fact that we've had one team this entire run has been a huge part. Because it's not just me, right? It's the fact that, our CMO, our COO, our CRO, our VP of sales, our VP of, I mean, everyone's the same.
Yep.
Is a huge part of it.
How has bringing in TSG as a new partner, I think it was $1.5 billion was like the announced, valuation of the company, which is amazing. Obviously private equity, for people listening to this, for them to make a return, you got to double or triple the size of the business. And there aren't that many 500, unit health club chains that are successful, in North America. So how do you kind of manage growth, manage like private equity expectations, and have fun doing it? And go into markets that you're like, hey, this fits, and I'm going to go and take over this. I'm not going to go put a couple of clubs in Houston. I'm not going to go put a couple of clubs in Dallas. I'm like going to go and blanket these markets.
Yeah. Well, I think it starts with, we were in a great situation when we went to market, that we didn't have to sell, and we were able to kind of pick who we wanted to partner with. And it was an interview process both ways. And because of that, we were able to have our cake and eat it too. I mean, TSG had done a fantastic job building relationship with us over the years. We knew who they were. This was a long journey, and ultimately, we knew we were aligned. And when I say that, I'm talking about, like I work with, Michael Lehman and Adam and Alec and Jordan. They have these teams, and they blew me away with not just their IQ, which I expected them to have. They blew me away with their EQ.
Mm-hmm.
And knowing how to work with management teams. And, I was able to talk to like the Rondos of the world, because they worked with Planet Fitness. They from 400 gyms to 1,200 gyms. They did it, and they were very open to talk to their other CEOs and get to know them. And ultimately, am I hard-headed? Probably a little bit, right? And I'm used to having that autonomy to be able to work decisions, and it was really important to have a partner that would support us and at the same time allow me to, and our team, to run our business. And so I feel like I'm pretty spoiled, because I had BRS, who was just, again, I love Bruce Bruckman, I love Bob Rashad, lifelong friends forever, right? And now I'm lucky enough, I have this TSG group who just want to support, just want to be helpful and add value. And they came at the right time, because Pete, little mistakes are big now. because it used to be 30 to 40 gyms. You make this move and it costs you $100,000.
Yeah.
Now you make that move and it just costs you $2 million.
Right.
And
Yep.
they've got the support in finance and AI and IT and legal and all these different spots to where there's an army for us to tap into. And it's not only just certainly saving us money by having these resources at our fingertips, it's just helping us making better decisions with more better information before we do it.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things that's apparent about what you're building is you seem to be, whatever the trend is, you guys are already kind of on top of it, whether it's like allowing people to do, videos of themselves and, posing rooms. A lot of people say, I don't want anybody taking any videos because that's a risk to me. You got people that are, pulling things out instead of putting things in. So how do you kind of look at a box and say, I'm going to overload this, but I know how to manage that, and I'm not nervous about adding things instead of subtracting.
I think you have to know who you are,
Mm-hmm.
and then you can run right at that. I think that's the key, is that we've had a vision, we know who we are, and we don't get, if it matches us, then we do it and try it, and if it doesn't, we stay away. I'll give you a couple examples that are public information, right? Like that I
Sure.
think we all know. If you think of, let's use Lifetime. Brahm does a great job. He's openly said, I believe, I'm not trying to quote him, he didn't tell me these words, but this is how I hear it. They're a country club without a golf course. So when pickleball becomes a trend, what does he do? He doubles down and goes all in, and he's crushing it with it. It was brilliant. Now,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying he didn't lean more into strength, or Lifetime didn't lean a little bit more into strength, but they didn't go down that crazy rabbit hole that far, if they did at all.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think they know who they are, and they made, and pickleball made sense. Most recently, I think Planet did a good job acknowledging they went too far down the strength rabbit hole. They got tempted by sort of Generation Alpha and where they were going, and not with the brand that they had built for 3 decades around being the people who didn't want to go to the gym but knew they had to go to the gym, and they did so much work on that. The pizza on Fridays, the donuts on Mondays, everything they could do to build a brand that was very inclusive for people who weren't gym rats. And I think they're right back on the right track again. But that's how you can be tempted, I think, to go down trends. So I guess what I'm saying to you, Pete, I think it's more important to know who you are and make sure that you stay disciplined to the trends that make sense to your brand, and not just go with the flavor of ice cream of the day that's going, because I've seen more gyms lose their identity trying to be like us.
Mm-hmm.
And we've lost nothing, and they've lost who they are.
Right. Yeah. Great
And
point.
so
Great point.
really that's, my thing is just have a plan, have a strategy, know who you are, and then double down on that. And ultimately there's a big pie out there. There's a lot of members for everybody.
Yeah. So, as you look at, take your crystal ball over the next couple of years, is there anything that you're concerned about? I always tell people irrational development has been, one of the biggest issues in this industry. I think there was a time when people were concerned about, boutique studios taking their business away. I think that's probably kind of played itself out. And, I'd say we won. The boxes have won, or the health club
Yeah.
operators have won. I think workout recovery, the health clubs will win. There's not a reason to have a standalone recovery, 3,000 square foot, studio next to an EōS or next to another location. It's not going to get the traffic, and you can bundle it in. So in closing here, we all got some great quotes and some stories here, but anything that you want to share, as a quote, or anything that you live by, or something that your team's like, that's a Drengbergism.
Oh boy, they might be a little bit better off giving you those than me, for sure.
Okay.
Listen, I would say if there's something that I look for is, for my job, is I like to make things better as a CEO, solve problems, and then kind of watch what the kids are doing in the gyms to see what the next trends are. So those are really my three focuses as a CEO. along with all the other stuff that goes along with it. But that's probably what I have the most fun with.
Well, look, I'm glad everything worked out the way it did. Congrats on the success. You've earned it, and it's a great story and a great business that you guys have built, and one that we can all be proud of in the industry. So wave the Halo flag for that.
If there's no Pete, no Halo, no EōS, right? Like that deal never happened.
Well,
So that was
yeah,
you.
Richard Pyle. Yeah, Peggy used to work for Richard Pyle, by the way. So that's how that connection came to
thank you,
as
Pete.
well. So thank you. All right, man. Well, appreciate you coming on. This has been The Exclusive with Rich Drengberg. This is Pete Moore on Halo Talks, your captain speaking. I am the founder and managing partner at Integrity Square. We've been around now for 15.5 years. We have been helping people like yourselves get capital, do mergers and acquisitions, consulting, strategic advice in the health, active lifestyle, and outdoor Halo sector, trying to help as many entrepreneurs as possible get to the next level and take that inflection point and be the force behind your growth. We are helping companies that have at least $3 million of EBITDA, around $10 million of revenue, and we are positioned to help you get institutional growth capital or to negotiate deals with strategic partners. If you go to integritysq.com/ISQ, you can see our capabilities deck. Happy to set up a consultation at any time. That is free of charge, and we look forward to helping solve obesity, loneliness, and diabetes. Go Halo.